Beta blocker slows down your heart rate and makes it just beat a little slower. And when you wake up in the morning, by the time you wake up in the morning, you don't have the beta blocker because within a few half-lives of the beta blocker, and the half-life is probably 4 to 6 hours, and so you've gone through 4 half-lives. So by that time, your beta blocker is all worn off, and so your heart's going to beat fast, and then you take the medications, and then the heart rate comes down again. And that's okay. It's not a problem. The other thing to consider is the dawn effect, they call it, or the morning effect. And that is you release all of your cortisol, all your adrenal hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, epinephrine, and that's going to cause a relatively faster heartbeat in the morning than in the evening.
Go. 2 things to start out this lovely webinar, guys. Number 1, I was waiting till we started to say this. How beautiful does Cheryl look today? She even matches the painting behind her.
I do. Thank you. Unplanned.
I was like, nice. You do. You look really
and
nice.
You look like a football player.
Oh yeah, that's right. Guys, I took this off before we started. I had this off. I was like, I was wearing a vest today and I took it off because I looked like a football player, but I put it back on. I was like, well, these are my people. It's fine. We're in South Dakota. It's all right.
It's the style
Okay.
for anybody in cold weather.
Yeah. Okay, we are live. All right. So guys, let me make sure. Are people still hopping on here? Yeah, of course. And they will for a little bit, but that's okay. This will be on the replay. So Dr. Saunders, we're a little bit late to get started. Dr. Saunders was just telling us some cool things, and I just would love it if he could share these with you. Would you be able to do that?
What I was saying is that I have had so many miracles lately, and that miracles happen and we talk about them a lot, but they're really few and far between. It's not like it happens every day. And so, and I've seen other ones like way in the past, but recently, like a lot more than usual. Like one young woman, 20 years old, came to my office a couple of years ago, and she had just been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and her blood sugar was all over the place, uncontrollable, injecting insulin 5 times a day, checking her blood sugar 5 times a day, and just trying to keep things stable, and it just really wasn't working. And so I put her on a autoimmune protocol. She essentially did the diabetes solution kit. We put her on a standard 1 time a day dose of insulin, and then just last week her test came back, and she is now making insulin again. Her pancreas is working again. After 2 years of 0 insulin, she's now making insulin. It's not a lot, but it's
is there a medical explanation for that?
Well, yeah, I checked her tests, and she had autoimmune diabetes, which is she had antibodies against the islet cells. They're called islet cell antibodies. And what that means is an autoimmune. Her body is fighting her own pancreas. It's like attacking her pancreas. Okay. And so the medical explanation is, well, she's no longer attacking her pancreas. So I checked the islet cell antibodies, and they're way down. And so, as this gets better and better, she's going to be making more and more insulin, and to the point where she's going to be off all her insulin. No more injections and no more diabetes. And so it's really exciting and dramatic.
It's unheard of in the medical world for someone with type 1 diabetes who has a non-functioning pancreas. That would be not medical term, but that's official, to have a functioning pancreas. That is restoration for sure.
Yeah.
So maybe you had mentioned this, but how did you get to the point where you wanted to further look into this instead of just saying, oh, she has type 1, here, let's give you this prescription? Why did you go further?
Well, that's what I do. When people come, instead of saying, well, your blood sugar's high, we should treat that with insulin, I ask the question, why is your blood sugar high? Oh, you're not making insulin. Well, why aren't you making insulin? oh, you have inflammation of the pancreas. Why do you, why do you have inflammation of the pancreas? So I just keep going down to the next level, down to the next level, down to the next level, until we came to, oh, it's this autoimmune disease. And you also have antibodies against insulin. So how do we get rid of autoimmune disease? And then we have a whole protocol for getting rid of autoimmune disease. And you know, it's taken a couple of years. It's been a little over 2 years. So it's not something that, you know, happens overnight, but she did it. She's followed the protocol and she's getting better.
Makes you wonder how many times we've just settled for something, for a diagnosis, or even maybe a name, or something that you said over yourself about who you are that wasn't true. You know, it wasn't true. There was more to it. And that's why we love you, Dr. Saunders, because you're willing to do the hard work and figure stuff out for people.
And the other one, the other one is actually more applicable to this program, which is the Healthy Heart webinar. And that is, I just had a patient in this morning who just got back from his cardiologist and just had an echocardiogram. And his ejection fraction, he had a heart attack. His ejection fraction was 26%. And what that means is his heart, every time it beats, only 26% of the blood is being pushed out of the heart. And that doesn't give you a lot of circulation, because you're only one fourth of the blood is actually getting out of the heart. Normal is over 50%, and a good heart is 65 to 70%. So that's where it doesn't get up. You don't ever pump 100% of the blood out. It's, you know, 70%. Never seen anyone higher than that. Anyway, so 26% is really not compatible with life. His lung was filling up with fluid, both his lungs filling up with fluid, and he couldn't breathe. You know, that's congestive heart failure. And they said, well, you're going to die, you know, of this congestive heart failure, because, you know, that's what happens to everybody. And so I put him on a program, got him off all his medications, put him on a healthy heart, the stress, the diet, the supplements, the nutritional supplements, everything that's in the book. And he just got back from his cardiologist, and his ejection fraction is up to 40%. He's walking 3 miles a day, uphill, downhill. He is working all day. He works at a desk job. It's not like a physical thing, but he's able to function all day long. He's 70 years old. And he's also, you know, pushing a lawnmower, mowing his lawn at home. He couldn't do that before. So he's functioning normally now. He's doing everything that he normally would do in a day, and he's not limited by his heart anymore. He's no longer a cardiac cripple, which is like miraculous. And so my expectation was that his doctor would be like, wow, you were 26% and now you're 40%. That is just amazing. What did you do? How did you do that? That's a miracle. We never see that. But the cardiologist was like, well, whatever. Just, you should be on these medications. I've taken him off those medications. Atorvastatin was one of them. The other one was, a beta blocker. That is just an automatic knee-jerk reaction for every cardiologist to put everybody who has congestive heart failure on a beta blocker and a statin drug. And they have to. If they don't, it's malpractice. And so the doctor said, you have to take these medications. And he's like, I'm not taking those medications. I'm doing better without them.
Wow. That is awesome. I love it. Julian said that's so cool, these stories of people getting better. And that's what we started talking about this. I said, wait, we got to start the webinar, and Dr. Saunders needs to share these things, because just awesome. And it gives me hope. I hope it gives all of you hope that you can change. Your health can get better. And I just love it. Who decides what constitutes malpractice? Julie says.
Well, Julie, it's ultimately like the medical boards, the legal system. So the way the legal system is set up is that you are compared, as a doctor, I am compared to the other doctors around me that are family practice doctors or even specialists. And so if I do what they would do, then it's not malpractice. If I do something different than the other doctors do, then it's malpractice.
Wow.
And is that like doctors like in your area or state? Like someone from California could totally practice different heart medicine than someone from North Carolina?
Yeah, actually, it used to be really just local doctors, and generally they kind of do that just to get some so that you can have them come to the court if there's like a court case or something, a lawsuit. But now you can get experts from anywhere. So actually, it doesn't have to be someone local.
And Julie says, so they're your authority, basically.
Yeah. The legal system, the medical board, they give me a license, and so they grant me a license. It's not my right to have one, and if they want to take it away, they can do that.
Judge of your peers.
Yeah.
Very interesting. All right. Okay, so hey, Ryan's here from Snowy Valley Springs, South Dakota. That's why I'm wearing my vest. This is my South Dakota gear. Judy says hi from Kansas. My question today is, what is bradycardia?
Bradycardia.
Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what it is. Bradycardia. So Brady means slow, cardia means heart. So it's a slow heart. And so what is bradycardia, or what number constitutes bradycardia, depends on the individual. So if you have a young child, a baby, for example, whose heart rate is under 80, you might consider that bradycardia, because a young child's heartbeat is going to be somewhere around 100 normally, whereas an adult, a full-size adult, bradycardia might be under 60. But if you talk to people and it turns out it's like a triathlete or a marathon runner or something like that, then having a heart rate in the 40s could be normal. So the best way to look at that is not so much the number. You say, okay, your heart is slow, and then do you have any symptoms? Like when you stand up, do you get dizzy? Or when you're walking, do you get dizzy? Because your heart beats slow, are you not getting enough circulation because the heart isn't beating fast enough to circulate? Because a marathon runner, for example, their hearts are big and they have a 70% ejection fraction. So they're like, oh, there's a whole bunch of blood being pumped with every beat. So they only have to pump, every 30 times a minute, every 2 seconds, whereas a little baby, their hearts are really small and they're like, they're beating faster. And if you've ever seen like those videos with hummingbird hearts, the hummingbird heart is like 300, it's like 300 times a minute. They're really fast.
John says hello from sunny South Carolina. And
we have Alma from Queens. Hello, Alma.
This is a really interesting question. I'm just going to read it because we're just having fun today. Julie says, so what if the medical board is wrong and actually practicing bad medicine or malpractice?
The medical board can never be wrong by definition.
That makes sense. All right. And okay. Alma, here's a good question from Alma. My question is that my heart beats harder and somewhat faster upon waking up. What are your thoughts? I have hypertension and then I'm okay after taking my morning meds.
Interesting. So your morning meds might include a beta blocker. Beta blocker slows down your heart rate and makes it just beat a little slower. And when you wake up in the morning, by the time you wake up in the morning, you don't have the beta blocker because within a few half-lives of the beta blocker, and the half-life is probably 4 to 6 hours. And so you've gone through, 4 half-lives. So by that time, your beta blocker is all worn off, and so your heart's going to beat fast, and then you take the medications, and then the heart rate comes down again. And that's okay. It's not a problem. The other thing to consider is the dawn effect, they call it, or the morning effect. And that is, you release all of your cortisol, all your adrenal hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, epinephrine, and that's going to cause a relatively faster heartbeat in the morning than in the evening.
Okay. All right, guys. So we are talking about the Healthy Heart Solution Kit today. That's what primarily talk about on all these webinars, but we're really trying to get to the bottom of how to keep your heart healthy, or maybe maybe you've had a heart attack. Dr. Saunders, is this something that you would recommend to a heart attack patient? Or maybe they found out they have some blocked arteries, or, who is this good for?
Okay, that's a great question. The solution kit is specifically for people who have an issue. And it doesn't matter what the issue is. Sometimes people will have a screening test, like they go to Lifeline screening, and they have the ultrasounds, and they check it out, and they go, well, it looks like you have a heart issue. Either from the EKG, there's an irregular rhythm, or if you've had a coronary calcium score and your calcium level is high, or if you've actually had a heart attack. So anything in between, from having zero symptoms, but just having, even a family history and not having anything at all, technically, with yourself, up to, gosh, I've had 3 heart attacks, and I've had 2 bypass surgeries, and I want to do something about this. I'm tired of doing these surgeries and stuff. So to some people, it's you know what, the medications are not helping me. I don't feel good on the medications. I want to try a different way of doing it. Other people, it's like, I don't want to ever go through that surgery again. So it's for everyone in the middle there. So you have, like, for example, ex-President Bill Clinton, when he had cardiac bypass surgery. And then he started getting chest pain again, went back to the doctor. The doctor said, oh, your bypass is getting blocked off. We're going to have to do the surgery again. He's like, what? You didn't do it right? What the heck? I don't want to do that surgery again. And they're like, oh, no, they get blocked off again. And you just have to redo the surgery periodically. And that's just what you have to do for the rest of your life. He's like, I don't want to go under the knife. Is there anything else I can do? The doctor said, no, there's nothing else you can do. So then he talked to a friend of his who knew a doctor named Esselstyn. And so he went on the Esselstyn program, completely reversed his heart disease, and didn't have the surgery again. And it was all with lifestyle changes, kind of like what we recommend in the book.
What things might be similar or different between that program and this program? This program is newer because this is our newest program. But what things do you think you've incorporated? Sorry, I hit myself in this that maybe could have been overlooked with the program he did?
Well, his program was mostly a dietary program. It was really becoming a vegan and avoiding fat. And that's been shown. There's been a lot of studies in the 1980s. The Dean Ornish program. Dean Ornish is a cardiologist from California who did a lot of research on can we reverse heart disease with a low-fat diet? And it was, the answer was absolutely yes, reverse. And that was quite one of those medical miracles too, when you think about it, because prior to that time, all they had were drugs like statins. And what does a statin actually do? Well, it technically slows the rate of atherosclerosis of your arteries. It does not decrease it. It doesn't reverse it. Whereas Dr. Ornish showed you could actually reverse it. And so several other ones McDougall, and Esselstyn, Pritikin, showed that you can actually reverse it with a diet program. But if you read the fine print and look at the whole program, the Dean Ornish program, it wasn't just a diet. It was you have a program. You meet with people. You do stress reduction, and so our program is actually very similar. It's modeled after his, and what's added in, what's different is we've added the stuff from Dr. Steven Sinatra, who is also a cardiologist in New York, who did a lot of research on congestive heart failure. Why are people getting congestive heart failure? Why is the heart just not working? Why is the ejection fraction declining? What is going on there? And the atrial fibrillation, all that stuff, and found that there were actually some nutrients that are missing, common nutrients that are missing in our diet. And one of them is magnesium. Another one is coenzyme Q10. We make coenzyme Q10, but that declines over time, especially if you're on a statin. Anyone taking a statin is going to make less coenzyme Q10 than people who are not on a statin. And then L-carnitine, which is really important for the ability to use fat for energy. So remember, you should be using 60% fat and 40% carb, sugar for your energy. If you can't get the fat into the mitochondria because you don't have enough carnitine, then you're going to mess up your energy system. So he put together this program for increasing or improving the energy system of the heart. So that's what we've added in that's different than what Bill Clinton might have done.
So, you talked about that program was to go more vegan. And one of the things that we really talk a lot about in the Healthy Heart Solution Kit is not necessarily vegan, but incorporating a lot of fiber. And why have you found that fiber is so important?
Fiber. So if you take what fiber does, there's like a lot of things that it does. As you eat more fiber, you get rid of the bile acids. It holds on to the bile acids, and you get rid of them more easily. And then you don't have a lot of secondary bile acids. It helps your biliary system. It helps your liver. Your liver makes new bile acids, so you are able to take up the fats more easily. And it also decreases inflammation. But it also feeds the good bacteria in your large intestine so that you have less inflammation, a better outlook on life. Actually, depression is decreased when you have a good high fiber diet, and having less inflammation improves or prevents damage to your arteries. So you have better, and you also make more glycocalyx, which is the protection, the lining of your arteries in your whole body. So all of that improves or prevents heart disease, the fiber. And there was another little part of that you mentioned about the very low fat vegan diet. And they're really low fat. Like you can't have avocados, they're like really.
What kind of life is that? That's not a good life.
That's the hard part. People don't like to stay on that diet. Yeah. So what we look at it is a little bit different, and because our assumption is from the more of the research that's been done recently is that it wasn't so much the fiber. The fiber is part of it. The very low fat diet was part of it, but really only because if you take out all the vegetable oils and stuff that you're eating, then the vegetables themselves are relatively higher in omega-3 than omega-6. So from the newer research we're looking at, it looks like it's not the low-fat diet. It's the getting a higher omega-3 than omega-6. So it's improving that omega-6 to omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. Should be somewhere around between 1 and 4. And most Americans, and I've done a lot of people, I've tested a lot of people, And I find most people are around 10 to 14. Most of the studies show that the average American is somewhere between 8 and 14. But that's not good. That means you have 8 to 14 times more omega-6 than omega-3. That means 8 to 14 times more inflammation than somebody who has a 1-to-1 ratio. And if you look at the worldwide research, wherever they eat fish and don't have vegetable oils like corn oil, soy oil, cottonseed oil, they have a very low heart attack risk. And it's so much so that if you look at Greenland, where they practically live on fish and don't really have any other oils, they don't grow wheat in Greenland. Everything else has to be imported. So the things that they have local, the local food is essentially fish. They have a 1/10 the rate of heart disease as America.
Okay, so I was just thinking about this. If we want to check the condition of our heart, and I mean like physically, how do we do that?
Physically, wow. Okay,
not physically. I mean, I meant like not emotionally or whatever, not that condition of my heart.
Oh,
But
see.
I mean, like, if I want to know it, how do I know if I'm going to have a heart attack? Or how do I know if I need to start this Healthy Heart Solution Kit now? You know, will I notice things? We hear of people who often had no idea they were having blockages, etc.
And you mentioned like life screening before.
Yeah.
Is that a place you go, or is your primary doctor involved with this, or can you go to urgent care? How can you to get all these tests done?
Actually, the Lifeline screening, you sign up, it costs like $150 or something, and they do ultrasounds of your carotid arteries and your aorta and your peripheral arteries, and they do an EKG, and it's like pretty good. And they screen it. They bring a truck into town. That's what they do here in California. I don't know if they do that everywhere. But they bring a truck in, and it's got the ultrasound and everything, and you make an appointment with them, and insurance doesn't cover that, but in a way it's better, because with the insurance, you would have to like do each one of them separately. You have to make an appointment for the carotid ultrasound, and then you got to make an appointment for the aortic ultrasound. Then you got to make an appointment with someone else to do an EKG. Whereas this is like all in one place, you get it done, and it's actually decent. I've heard other doctors tell me that, oh, that's a bad place to go because they're not certified in this or that or whatever. I don't know. But when you think about it, the people who do it the most get the best at it. And so these people are doing these all day long, every day. That's all they do. Whereas like you go to the radiology place and they do a couple a day or one a week or whatever. I don't know what they're doing. And they're doing other things as well. You know, they're going from the CT scanner to the ultrasound to the echocardiogram, and doing a lot of different things. Whereas these guys, this is all they do, and they do it every day, and they do it well. And so when you've seen hundreds of carotid arteries, and you're looking at someone's carotid artery and you're saying, oh my gosh, this is bad because I've seen hundreds of these, and this is the worst one I've ever seen, or whatever, and you're able to measure it better. So I actually like Lifeline screening, and I often send my patients, I go, okay, sign up for this. They're going to be in town next week in some parking lot, some church parking lot or something, and that's where they do it. The other thing to do is a coronary calcium score. And the coronary calcium score tells you if you have atherosclerosis, if you have it. And that means there's calcium deposits in your arteries. And this is a CT scan. And you need to get your doctor to order that. And it's done at a radiology place wherever they have a CT scanner. And then they measure the amount of calcium that's in your arteries, and they give you a number. And the number is not a useful thing. It's really just to tell you, okay, if your number is 100, then you have a little bit of heart disease. If your number is 400, you have a significant amount of heart disease. If it's 1,000, you've got a lot of heart disease. And I've seen people, the really bad people I've seen as high as 5,000. And this is people who already have chest pain. They're already having symptoms. So, but yeah, before you ever have any symptoms, you could be 100, 60, 80, 300, somewhere there, and no symptoms at all. But you would know, yes, I have atherosclerosis in my arteries. I want to reverse this. And that's where the solution kit comes in.
All right. Quick overview of the solution kit. I just want to tell you guys just some things that you can find in this. Many of you already have this, but you can find it at bartonwebinar.com. And I was just kind of making a list of some of the overviews. It's broken into phases, so you don't, you kind of start with a little bit more difficult stuff. But this is the stuff that we talk about in this. Your diet, fiber intake, stress reduction, fasting, supplements, exercise. Those are some of the things that we cover in this. And in fact, last week we talked a lot about fasting, and we threw out a little challenge to you guys, if you remember. Hopefully you do. And I'd like to know how you guys were doing. So we talked about the benefit of doing what we call 6-10 reset, or even a 3-10 reset, where you would stop eating by 6 p.m., in bed by 10, and then you eat the next morning. So the goal is really to have an empty stomach for a long period of time, because that's where all the magic happens. If you were on the webinar, you learned about that, and you'll see, we'll post that on our YouTube channel so that you can catch that. But I'd love to hear how it went for many of you. I'll give you my update. I did 7 days where I stopped eating between, it varied a little bit. I was done eating by 5. So between about 3:30 and 5 each day. And guys, I don't know why I didn't do it sooner. I've done it before, but it was easy. It was so easy. I did think, for me in my home, 3 o'clock was a tough time, because I hadn't eaten enough to feel full throughout the day yet. And I also leave to pick up my kids, and then they come home and they want to eat. And so I got to do some more planning to be able to be done eating by 3. I find that I don't eat enough during the day. And so I must eat more in later hours. But that's what I learned. And I'm going to continue on it. My husband's been doing it too, mostly, other than when he traveled with the Barton team, which he was last week. So, but otherwise it's been pretty good. How about you, Cheryl? Were you able to do any?
So I was inspired by Dr. Saunders to try to do a weekend fast, and I couldn't do all weekend. I did end up eating like something small on Friday, and then my family did our last Christmas celebration on Saturday. So I felt I didn't want to go to that and not eat Christmas with my family. So I had a dinner then, but then my goal was to finish eating by 3 this week, which was hard, but my husband comes home late. So we usually have dinner on 7. So I pushed it up to 5. So I did good by 5. And on some days I did earlier, but it was to make it, I've got to plan better. Like that means I got to eat a major meal at noon. And some days I don't have that in my kitchen to eat a major meal by noon, or a big meal. I haven't cooked it yet. So either got to cook more, have more leftovers in the house. But I do feel like my digestion has improved, and I would say some mental clarity has come. But I'm going to continue to do it. I feel like there's enough benefits to keep trying.
Yeah, that's awesome. I would agree. I found too that my breakfast and sometimes my lunch, I will eat whatever's available. I don't necessarily enjoy it. And so if I haven't enjoyed a meal for the whole day, it's harder for me to be done at 3, which is so funny. So I'm like, okay, what could I eat that I could make that I will really enjoy, and then I'm fine with not eating for the rest of the day. So weird mental games that happen, even with a small fast like that. Isn't it funny?
Mm-hmm. Dr. Did you do the whole weekend?
I did. I fasted for the whole weekend. So Friday morning I ate, and then I didn't eat again till Monday. Friday morning then Monday morning I ate. Breaking the fast in the morning is important. But even then, like you're talking about, you had a party. So yesterday I went out to dinner with someone. I said, can we just move it a little bit earlier? And so we met at 4 o'clock, and I ate at 4 o'clock. So, I was done by 5. But yeah, I try to make it 3 too. And so I think what I'm going to do is put a break in my schedule. Give me a half an hour break or an hour break to eat at 2 o'clock or 3, between 2 and 3, so that I can take the time to eat, because otherwise, if I don't put a break in my schedule, then I come to the end of the day, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm like, great, I didn't have anything to eat all day. I had breakfast, but I haven't eaten anything all day.
It is amazing.
I heard of something that I thought I would try to right now start to improve on. We call it we have the 6-10 reset or 3-10 reset. I've heard of the 5-10-15 rule. Take 5 seconds to chew every bite. Take 10 seconds between each bite, putting your fork down, and take 15 minutes to eat your whole meal. So I thought that was something I'm going to try to improve on.
That's good. That's good. All right, guys, there's another challenge.
When I was in the Air Force ROTC, we had to chew 30 times and put our fork down between each bite. It was, they were really specific about that. And if you didn't do it, they made you go up to the front and eat and drink from the grog bowl, which was
interesting.
A mixture of stuff you don't want to drink.
Yeah, that sounds like something middle schoolers would put together at a restaurant. Okay, I have a cool boy. That's why.
Or college guys in the military. Yeah.
Yeah, true. That's true. One time I remember talking about someone had shared some research, I think, on the state of your, I don't know. I think it's the emotional state that you're in and the way that it can affect the way you digest food when you eat it. And so if you are frantic or you're stressed out or you're sad when you're eating, or it can affect the way you digest your food. And I've only seen that one time that came through, but I thought that's very interesting. So all the more reason why you really need to slow down, think through what you're doing. And I'm going to implement that, Cheryl. I like that. I like that you shared that, because otherwise I'm going to have to drink out of the grog bowl. Is that what you called it? Okay, I'm not really going to, but I'm going to think about it. Butch had said on here that he ate 1 time a day or 1 meal a day, and he ate it at 5 o'clock. How'd that go for you, Butch? Let us know. Okay. Let's see. I think I had another question on here. Well, actually, you know what? Let's get to some of these questions. We're going to run out of time. Connie said, my husband's blood pressure is 125/65 and heart rate is 63. But the 3 arteries supplying the heart are 90% blocked. He has no pain, no shortness of breath, and seems healthy. This is freaky.
Yep. Yeah, it's freaky. Okay. So that 90% block is from the inside, where they can see when they put a dye in there, then they do an X-ray. They do a 2-dimensional X-ray, and then they can see that it's actually here's how big the artery is, and there's only that much space letting the dye through, and so that's how they determine that 90% blockage. So if there's a big need, so for example, if he were to try to run a mile or something like that, then he might get chest pain or chest pressure because the heart would then there would be areas of the heart that wouldn't be getting enough oxygen, enough circulation. So the question is, what do you do about that, and how do you reverse that? That is really important, and that is something that you can't let it go and go, well, I don't have any symptoms, so I don't have to do anything about it. No. Yeah, normal blood pressure, that doesn't mean anything at all. That's got nothing to do with this. This is something that needs to be reversed. So finding out why it's there. So we have in the kit, there's a list of tests, and all those tests need to be done. Why? Because if he has anti-cardiolipin antibodies, that's got to be fixed. If he has ApoB, then that's got to be fixed. If he has lipoprotein A, then that's got to be fixed. Whatever is, if he has high inflammation, that's got to be fixed. Whatever the problem is, you got to fix it. And until you know what the problem is, you don't know what to do. I wouldn't know what to do. I've been in this field for 30 years, and I wouldn't know what to do if I didn't have tests. Without tests, I'm useless. because what I would just be shooting in the dark. And that's what, you know what, most of doctors in medicine, that's what we're taught, to shoot in the dark. Someone comes in with chest pain. Oh, here, try this, a beta blocker. Did that help? No. Here, try nitroglycerin. Did that help? No. Okay, try this other blood pressure medication. Did that help? No. You know, you're just trying this and trying that, and you're going, wait a minute, why are we shooting in the dark? We can test everything now. There is nothing that we can't test. We can know why everything is happening. Remember, you have a glycocalyx, it's called. It's the lining of the arteries. And when that gets damaged, you get clots. And if those clots repair, then boom, you're fine. If they don't repair, you're going to get more clots and more clots and more clots and more clots until you have a little teeny hole to get blood through, to feed your heart muscles. So why aren't you getting rid of those clots? Why aren't you repairing them? Is it because you have high adrenal hormone levels? Is it because of the LPA? Is it because you have inflammation? Look for why. Because if you're assuming that it's because the blood pressure is high, you're going, but wait a minute, the blood pressure is normal, so it can't be that. Well, take a blood pressure medication anyway. And that's what a lot of doctors do. They go, well, I have two tools. I have blood pressure medication and cholesterol medication. So those are the two things I'm going to give you no matter what the problem is. So if the problem is LPA, then I'll still give you those two things because I don't know what to do about that. So be careful to find out the cause first before you start doing treatments.
Okay, I have an email that came in from Suzanne, and she said, I have a question about LPA, the disastrous genetic LDL fraction that is ignored by most cardiologists because there is no drug for it.
Very good.
Says her family doctor said high LPA is the reason my cousin has had 4 heart attacks. He checked all of his other heart attack patients and 100% had high LPA also. I would like to know if Dr. Saunders has found something or a combination of things that will lower LPA. I suggested the Linus Pauling protocol of vitamin C, lysine, and proline. However, she cannot take sufficient water-soluble vitamin C without diarrhea. I'm wondering if a sorbitol palmitate, the fat-soluble form of vitamin C, would be a better option. Niacin is another option, but has its own set of problems in high doses. What are we missing?
Okay, good. Wow. Well done. That's a lot of research. Okay. So, the vitamin C protocol is okay. And Linus Pauling, remember, was using ascorbic acid or ascorbate very, very specifically, isolating just that, and not taking into account all of the bioflavonoids that work with the vitamin C to prevent heart disease. So there's much more to it than that. So there's dietary ways to improve the effective LPA. So remember, LPA is a genetic thing, right? It's a gene thing. So it's not that you fix the LPA by taking something to lower the LPA. You find out what the LPA does. So LPA, lipoprotein A, is something that binds when it binds to a clot. Remember, you have clots that form whenever there's damage to the arteries, and the LPA binds to the clot and prevents it from being dissolved. So you have this clot that sits there and never gets dissolved. Think about it. If you cut your skin and you had this scab to form across there, that's the clot, right? The scab. And it never got dissolved and it just stayed there, and you always had this scab for the rest of your life. You'd be going, dang, and I wish I could get rid of this dumb scab for the rest of my life. Well, that's what's going on in the arteries with the LPA. You have these scabs that are forming inside your arteries that are not getting dissolved and cleaned out like they're supposed to. And that's what the LPA does. So then if you know why, then you can work around it in finding a way to dissolve the clots. So if you have high LPA, you're going to be using different things like nattokinase. Nattokinase is an enzyme from natto. Natto is a soybean curd, fermented soybeans. And I don't think it's very tasty. Some people like it. The Japanese people like it, and they sometimes make soups from it and various things. But it's got a lot of this nattokinase, which is an enzyme that breaks down clots. It literally dissolves clots. And so it doesn't require the fibrinolytic activity of your own body, and the LPA won't affect it. So you can use that. There's also a very important part of it is to have this omega-6 to omega-3 ratio balanced. So if you can get your omega-6 to omega-3 to be something like 2 to 1, 2 to 1. So yeah, that's twice as much omega-6 as omega-3. And being in that range will go a long way towards preventing clots, dissolving clots, preventing all the inflammatory processes that are causing the damage in the first place. So, so on the one hand, when you have LPA, you prevent damage, and one of the ways is a very high fiber diet, and then a high omega-3 to omega-6 ratio, and then repairing the damage that's done, because there's always going to be some damage done. Yes, you can stop inflammation to decrease the damage, but it's not going to be completely resolved that way. And then you use something like nattokinase, or there's another one called lumbrokinase, which actually comes from worms. That's what the word lumbro means, worm. And lumbrokinase has been shown in some studies to be actually even better than nattokinase. You can get that. I know you can get it online. I don't know of any brands or anything, but those are useful things for helping people with lipoprotein A.
Interesting. All right. Speaking of fiber,
nattokinase. Nattokinase is spelled NATTOKINASE. Yeah.
Thank you. David says, okay, so it's recommended that we get 40 grams of fiber. Now, how do we do that if we're only eating in an 8-hour window? How is that possible? What do you eat with this limited time?
Well, put it this way. It's not that you have to eat more. It's that you just avoid anything that doesn't have fiber. And so you have high fiber stuff, fruits and vegetables, and adding in things like mushrooms, things you might not eat a lot of. Instead of having just like a few mushrooms, you make like a lot of mushrooms, added to your salad and cooked and whatever, all that stuff. And then all your snacks are going to be like things like carrots and celery. And I like jicama. Man, when I get a good jicama, that's like the best snack ever. And it's got a lot of water in it, but it's fiber too. And then so what you're going to do to get that fiber is you're going to look at all your food in terms of, does that add fiber to my diet?
Well, and Butch says, does Sing Metamucil, when they add stevia and say it has 10 grams of carbs with 5 grams of dietary fiber and 5 grams of soluble fiber, is that a good choice?
It's an okay choice. You know what? Get the psyllium. That Metamucil is psyllium essentially. Get the psyllium without any sugar, without any flavor. Just get the unflavored stuff, because it's just kind of grainy. You put it in water, you stir it up and drink it down. Or what I do is I add it to my smoothie. I don't have a smoothie every day, and so I don't add scoops of fiber every day. But just
chia seeds are a good thing to add. Sorry, Leslie. Chia seeds. We do have a list of fiber foods on page 106 of the Healthy Heart Solution Kit. That might be helpful.
Yeah, and chia seeds are wonderful because they're high in omega-3 as well.
Our Fiber Greens product doesn't have a ton of fiber in it. But if you're adding it to a smoothie or something, it's a good option. I really like it. You're getting fiber and greens. So
that's what I do.
couple questions here. What causes erectile dysfunction? Little off topic, but still, this is important. What causes erectile dysfunction and how do you solve it?
Okay. That's a very good question because we are talking about a healthy heart. And so where does that erectile function come in? Well, this is the blood vessel system. This is the vascular system. And if you have erectile dysfunction, then it's very likely you have vascular disease of some kind. And so the question earlier that Leslie asked was, who is this kid for? And how do you know you might have heart disease? And why would you want to even start this? And you know what? If everybody who had erectile dysfunction looked at their heart, a large proportion of them would find heart disease because it's vascular disease. It's the blood vessels, right? And that's the same problem with erectile dysfunction. It's a blood vessel problem. And so the question of what do you do about it? You do the Healthy Heart Solution Kit, and you do the whole program because stress has a big effect on it. And then there are a couple of things you can add that have, it depends on the study. Some studies show it really works, other studies don't. And that's the thing we talked about a little bit in there, the L-arginine. L-arginine is an amino acid that provides the nitrogen to make nitric oxide that dilates the blood vessels, that allows normal erectile function. But it also allows normal function of the heart. And so when they did a study, a long-term study, well, relatively long-term, 6 months, on L-arginine, they looked at the blood vessels and they could tell there was improvement in the function of the vascular system using L-arginine, and they used 3 grams, that's 3,000 milligrams, 3 times a day for 6 months. And so that's where they actually saw improvement with just doing that and no other changes. Wow. So that's a thought.
Yeah, that's good. Good question. Genevieve says, what about a liver cleanse? Would that help a fatty liver? I found Buplarum liver cleanse. Would that be a good take?
Okay, so let's talk about liver cleanse. That is a great question. The liver has to process everything you eat, all of the toxins, all of the, well, not all the fats, certain types of fats, all the proteins, all the amino acids, everything that you eat that gets absorbed into your system goes through your liver first. And so why is that important? Because your liver's got to detox and fix everything. And it's got a lot of work to do all the time, constantly, because you're always eating, right? So what is a liver cleanse? Well, it's really simple. It's when you're not eating. You always cleanse your liver when you're not eating. So people who tell you, well, if you take this, it will cleanse the liver, that's usually adding stuff in, and it's toxic, and the liver has to process it, and it's not cleansing your liver at all. It's actually adding to it. There are a few things that have actually helped your liver to detox your food and the stuff that you're eating. And that is milk thistle, and N-acetylcysteine and glutathione, which is essentially N-acetylcysteine, and glutamine. So those things can be helpful. So a lot of like liver detox, they'll have those things in it. You'll see milk thistle or silymarin, and glutamine and N-acetylcysteine, and those are fine. But just so that you know, you don't detox a fatty liver until you stop eating. And the less you eat, the more your liver is detoxed. So having an empty stomach, I can't overemphasize how good having an empty stomach is for you. Not eating is really good for you. So if you eat 1 meal a day, there was someone who earlier when you asked said, yeah, I did 1 meal a day and it was amazing.
And the piece of that we forgot to mention is, and Butch said this, he slept great. just having the one meal a day, being done by 5. His sleeping was good. And I would agree. I have slept really well, being done eating earlier also. And there are so many benefits to getting enough sleep and getting good sleep. So that's been a good big change.
So liver detox, empty stomach, put those together. That's the key.
There's another question about that I was going to
I
ask.
saw Trisha. She said, it's more of a comment. I try to eat one meal a day called OMAD
Yep.
at breakfast time, about 1 hour of eating, then nothing, no snacking the rest of the day.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's really great.
That is good. Awesome. Maybe just some clarification here for Teresa. We want to do a half omega-6 to omega-3. Is that right?
Well, it's the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. When you do the test comes to you with a ratio.
1 to 2. Yeah.
And the ratio would be a 2 to 1, or it would just say 2. And that means you have twice as much omega-6 as omega-3. And that would be like an optimum place to be if you want to reverse heart disease. That's a great place to be. If you want to maintain it, 4 to 1 ratio is okay. And most Americans have really high heart disease rate, and they're at 8 to 1 or 12 to 1 or 15 to 1.
Okay. All right, you guys, that's it for us today. Thank you, Dr. Saunders. We'll see you next week.
All right. See you next week.
Thank you. Bye.
And all
Bye.
of you, thank you for all of your questions. These are so good. And I'm proud of all of you for trying to do some type of fasting. That's not easy.
No, but I'm encouraged just by doing a little bit makes me want to do more. So if you're on that webinar and you haven't tried, don't think you can't do it this week. Try one day or one meal a day for a couple of days, or make some decision to fast.
Yes. All right. Come back next week, guys. You can also be here for our diabetes reversal webinar that we do on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Central. You can register for that at bartonwebinar.com. That's our hub. You'll find all the information about us, our webinars, all of our recordings, etc. So I just would encourage you to go there, and we will see you next week. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Leslie. Adios.
Bye-bye.